address that follows was given at the Greater World Christian Spiritualist Headquarters on Sunday the 7th of August 1983.
God bless you, dear ones.
God bless you, sister.
Mine is that pleasure and that very special privilege of these few words with you this eventide. I am always very happy indeed when I am the one chosen to step forward to contact the Father's children. And it is my habit to find a few words, offer them unto you, and suggest that you think about them in your own quiet moments. I heard it mentioned before you opened your service how often it is that hymns, addresses, readings, and so on will blend in together, although seemingly chosen by different people. And tonight I find no exception. The words that I would like you to take out into the week which is so nearly ahead of you are these: knowing your God. Knowing your God. Now probably a number of you will think about reading. Not just this, but many other books. And this, of course, is true. But nevertheless, not quite what I had in mind. Because it seems to me that when we think of the things that a spiritualist understands, that there is within him that spark of the divine, which is indestructible, then surely, if we are to know our God, we must look within, unto your very innermost self. Because therein lies that spark of the divine that I have mentioned. I am not denying those things that you can achieve by reading. But I suggest unto you that to really know your God is to really know yourself, which is within. Not just under the surface, but that innermost self. That true self, which is buried so very deep within the person that perhaps they may pass through their entire earthly stage with no one else, or even themselves, seeing or recognizing it. Now this is the inner sanctum, if you like, the Holy of Holies. And I have observed on many, many occasions that once a person has entered that inner sanctum, they can never be quite the same again. There is a certain something that has happened to them. They cannot be quite the same person again. You may not be able to describe it, or say just what it is, but certainly it brings about an alteration in that person which can never be reversed, and neither can it be eradicated from their memory. Because do you not see, beloved, that in touching that innermost part of yourself, you have touched Spirit, you have touched the Father. And you should be able to sense a greater peace, a greater contentment than before, no matter what is going on around you. Now, the other thing that I have in mind about knowing yourself and therefore the Father is using that God-given gift of discernment to be able to discern various things that are going on around and about you. And certainly most important, to be able to discern perhaps you have the simple presence of a daisy, or perhaps you have the presence of the Master. But in both cases, when you have discerned them, when you have touched upon them, you have touched upon that innermost self which is of the Father. Yes, indeed, the little daisy may indeed be very simple. And the presence of Jesus Christ, very powerful. Yet both came from the same source. Both can have their effect upon you. Sometimes this discernment may be used as a deliberate thing. In other cases, no. The person is calling upon something within themselves and they know not what. But shall we remember that power that perception that was in the Master, all that power, all that help, all that spiritual contact that he meant is still available to you today. Master knew and understood this. Oh, how conscious was Jesus throughout his time upon the earth plane that he was about his Father's business. He had been sent to the earth for a specific purpose. And yet, dear ones, shall we remember that he was able to say to those simple fishermen by the lake, simple fishermen who had known nothing else, follow me. No detailed explanations as to what to expect. No guarantees, no promises. Just those simple words, follow me. Now it is hard to believe, is it not, that those fishermen realized that this man that they were to learn, to know, and to love was the Son of God. And yet, it is quite clear, is it not, that using that discernment that they had within, they knew that they could trust themselves to his leadership. The Master at that stage had much yet to teach them, and yet they could surely have felt no doubt that they could safely put themselves in his hands, which indeed they did. They could sense that certain something about him, that certain strength, that certain power, which, as I've said, is available to you today. So this is why I urge you, whatever form of progression you are following, look within. That is where you will find it. So oft times, not that I'm against books, but oft times people look through books for an answer they need, when all the time it was within themselves. Now this discernment, this faculty about which I have spoken, is sometimes used deliberately. On another occasion, perhaps a person will use it, being aware that they have it, and yet understand it not. And this, dear ones, has been so for a very long time. I am sure that you've all heard of the great composer Haydn. There is, I think, a rather lovely and slightly humorous example of how Haydn used those inner resources to find his way out of a not too easy situation. It was, I think, in 1722, thereabouts, when Haydn was employed with his musicians by a Hungarian prince. And not unnaturally, the men who had been away from their homes for some considerable time were anxious to visit their families. And Haydn was hard-pressed to think of a way of getting permission to excuse himself and his musicians for a period to visit their families. Eventually, he wrote what is known as the 45th or the Farewell Symphony. And rather cleverly, I feel, he arranged that at the first playing for the prince of this symphony, that each musician would blow out the candle by his music stand, pack up his instrument, and quietly leave the stage, one by one, till eventually Haydn alone was left in the centre of the stage, and he held his own instrument and bowed very low and withdrew. And quite soon after that, permission was given for those musicians to return to their families for a while. Now, do you not see, dear ones, what a wonderful example Haydn was giving to all those who observed it, of how to handle a somewhat difficult situation with a little discretion, tact, diplomacy, and I feel a touch of humour. But that came from within him. He looked within and found the answer he sought. And that is why I beseech you, ladies and gentlemen, some of you I can see, do spend a period in meditation. And this we very highly recommend. And if I may, I would like to relate to you just a short story which I feel will illustrate the point I have been trying to make. That what goes on inside you so very much affects other people. Now back, I believe, in the 1960s, there was a Dr. James Dobson, who was a science teacher at an American high school. Now the good doctor was a very firm believer indeed in discipline, but also kindness. And he was a man whose Christian religious observances meant very much to him. And some 12 years after he had left the school, he received a telephone call from a young woman who had at one time been in his class, but whom he had not seen or had any contact. And she inquired as to which church he attended, because she felt that she would like to go along. on several occasions, our good doctor observed her there. And eventually, he took her just quietly to one side and asked her, "What made you contact me? What made you want to come here?" And the young lady's answer, "During my whole time at school, you were the one person who stands out in my mind as having treated me with great respect and having believed in me. And I watched your dealings with the other students and your personal conduct of yourself. And if I'm to be honest, I must say that I felt I wanted to know your God." Now, ladies and gentlemen, there is the pointer to our story. The girl felt that she wanted to know his God. So, if you want to know your God, you must look within. And if you do that, it will shine and radiate from you. And perhaps many other people will want to know you. And hopefully, perhaps through you, yes, any one of you, through you, someone will want to know Jesus Christ, the Master. God bless each one.
God bless you.